that was the opening segment of the show. Am I the only one whose stream was lagging? Maybe. Is the stream lagging for you guys? I don't know, but so that was the announcement that was made regarding Chris Benoit when they found out that he was murdered. I think it was the same day, right? Hold on, let me see. Chris Benoit. June 24th. Okay, so this was the day after, because apparently it was confirmed on June 24th, 2007. So the day after is when they made the announcement on Raw. So now let's go to the one that was made when he found out. Here it is.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Last night on Monday Night Raw, the WWE presented a special tribute show, recognizing the career of Chris Benoit. However, now some 26 hours later, the facts of this horrific tragedy are now apparent. Therefore, other than my comments, there will be no mention of Mr. Benoit's name tonight.
This is probably about to be a whole meme. I feel like.
WWE Zero Tolerance.
Yeah, it's definitely a meme. Where's the actual thing? Hold on. Here it is. No, that's what I just clicked on. What the fuck? Where is it? Here it is.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Last night on Monday Night Raw, the WWE presented a special tribute show, recognizing the career of Chris Benoit. However, now some 26 hours later, the facts of this horrific tragedy are now apparent. Therefore, other than my comments, there will be no mention of Mr. Benoit's name tonight. On the contrary, tonight's show will be dedicated to everyone who has been affected by this terrible incident. This evening marks the first step of the healing process. Tonight, WWE performers will do what they do better than anyone else in the world. Entertain you.
And that was the last mention we ever heard of Chris Benoit. So, from all that we just saw there, I'm sure none of you have changed your mind. If anything, I want to hear from you guys in the chat right now. How many of you guys actually remember any of that going on? Did any of you in the chat live through those 3 episodes of Raw? That's my question to you. How many people in the chat right now, TikTok, Twitch, YouTube, how many of you guys actually lived through that segment? Not like you watched it when you got older or you heard about it when you became a fan. How many of you lived through this? I lived through that segment. I lived through all 3 of those. How many of you guys lived through that segment? Just out of curiosity. How many people are we talking here? So I have like 0 people in the stream. Hold on. Oh shit, the stream got taken down. Fuck WWE, bro. The stream got taken. That's what happened. I'm sitting here like, what the fuck happened? The stream got taken down. Fuck this company. So for anybody wondering what the hell happened, the stream got taken down. I think WWE like literally just took down the stream. Or somebody took down the stream. It just ended. Hold on. I'm in the wrong stream chat now. I hate when it does this shit. Hold on. I gotta change a bunch of shit over real quick. Hold on, y'all. Hold on, chat. Hold on. I hate... Hold on, y'all. Shit got fucked up. And my Chris Benoit stream, it literally just got taken down. That's why it's like, wait, did the stream end? Yeah, it ended. It ended. I think WWE just took down the stream. It didn't crash. I think WWE took down the stream because all of a sudden it stopped. It literally just stopped. Hold on, y'all. If you watching on YouTube, just bear with me for a second. I'm just trying to switch some things over. Hold on. Bear with me. Bear with me here. Bear with me. The original stream got taken down. I probably got I don't know. I hope I didn't get a copyright strike, but I'm pretty sure the original stream just got taken down. It's probably for showing like, oh shit, here we go. It like literally all of you just powered in all of a sudden. The stream got Yes, the stream did get Benoit. Yes, the stream got Benoit. I just saw all of your chats pop in at the same time. All right, hold on, y'all. Hold on, y'all. We're moving shit over. We are moving shit over. The stream literally got taken down. Alright, boom. Let me send this over to my Discord. Hold on. New stream link. Whew, excuse me. Excuse me. Hey, what's up, TikTok? Yeah, if you guys are wondering what happened to the original stream, I think we showed so much WWE content that WWE just took down the stream. Check and make sure you got no... I ain't even going to check right now and stress myself out. If I got a strike, I'll figure it out after the stream is over. I'm not even about to check right now. We just going to trudge on. Anyway. So I'm not going to show any more WWE related videos or clips because they just they just took down my original stream. See, this is how I know that when I want to do these streams, I have to do it on Twitch and TikTok only, not YouTube, because they just tried to nuke the whole stream. So, future reference, when I do streams like this, it will primarily be on Twitch and TikTok. I wanted to test the waters here on YouTube, but I could see it's already going to be a fucking issue. Anyway, and now if this is an issue again, then that's going to be a really big issue. But we're going to keep on keeping on. Y'all saw the 3 videos I showed y'all. Once again, I'm going to ask in the chat because I'm pretty sure the stream got taken down when I asked this question. But question all of you in the chat. The 3 videos I showed you, which was the video of Vince McMahon being killed in a limousine explosion, and then the video of Vince McMahon doing the announcing that Chris Benoit and his family have been murdered collectively, when we all thought that the family got murdered or they were just found dead. And then the one where he basically denounced Chris Benoit. How many of you guys actually lived through those segments? Out of curiosity, how many of you guys lived through those segments? What's your username on Twitch? If you guys want to go over to the Twitch chat, feel free, because I don't know if this stream will get taken down by YouTube as well. It is Suplex with 2 X's on Twitch. Hold on. SOO. I'm going to link it, actually. Feel free to go over to twitch.tv/suplex if you guys want to be on the safe side. So a good bit of you actually lived through that. I wasn't born yet at the time. Damn, you weren't born yet? Wait, hold on. You weren't born yet. That means you're like 13, bro. You weren't born yet. How old are you? You got to be younger than 13. My brother's birthday is the same day as the Benoit incident, so I can never forget it. Oh, I bet. I was 7 when the event happened. I was, I think, 10 when it happened. Yeah, I was 10 because it's 2007. I was 10 years old when it happened. You're 16. Wait, hold on. If you're 16, that means you would have been... Wouldn't you have technically been alive when it happened? Because that happened 15 years ago. I think you would have been alive. I don't know. My math ain't math right now. That being said, a good bit of you actually lived through that. Spacewalker Real, thank you for the follow on twitch.tv. So, now that I asked that, before we tap into the video, because right here is what I'm talking about. So, I found this video about a couple weeks ago on YouTube. It popped up on my FYP. It's called A Case for Chris Benoit. A Case of Chris Benoit. Now, from the comments and everything, I have a feeling it's going to tackle a lot of the mental health of Chris Benoit. Because here's one thing about me, and I'll be completely honest with you guys. Zay Against the World, thank you for following me on Twitch.tv. I'll be completely honest with y'all. I don't like Chris Benoit as a person. I don't know him as a person, so I really can't say I don't like him. But his actions, irredeemable. My knowledge of CTE is limited. I am not an expert on CTE. I'm not an expert on the brain. People always tell me that, oh, he had the brain of an old man. He didn't know what he was doing. And I just say, you know, shut the fuck up. But I don't know. I don't know what I don't know. And I feel like it'd be ignorant of me to keep on saying this stuff and not know much about CTE, the effects it has on the brain, or even like, you know, to even hear the other side. Because we could sit here all day and just denounce Chris Benoit, but if we want to have a discussion, we got to hear the other side out. So this video has 200,000 views, and I have not seen many wrestling fans talking about this video, which is why I want to bring awareness to it, because I don't see a lot of wrestling fans actually talking about or saying they watched it. So I wanted to bring awareness to it, and we're going to watch it today and see if anybody's minds change. So before we tap into this video, I want you guys to just give me your explanations right now. What are your thoughts on Chris Benoit? Just comment down below right now. You don't got to be afraid of being judged in the comment. I mean, you'll be judged no matter what. You don't got to be afraid of me judging you in the comment section. Just to have a generalization of what the feelings are towards Chris Benoit. Comment down below how your feelings are towards him. And then we're going to come back to your comment, and you're going to do the same thing after you watch this video. What are your thoughts on Chris Benoit? Should he go into the Hall of Fame? Is what he did irredeemable? All that good shit. You can't make excuses for someone killing their family. Listen, I get exactly what you mean, MGT. Mission 28, thank you for the follow. Doc Adams YT, thank you for the follow as well. Great wrestler, evil human. Great wrestler, great person until that day. I personally don't think he did it. I believe there was a third. Yeah, I hear that a lot. People say that they think it was Kevin Sullivan. Maybe they addressed it in this video. Who knows? He was a good wrestler, but a horrible human being. I don't think he should be in the Hall of Fame. I watched it all unfold on live TV. It was wild. Top 5 technical wrestlers, but what he did is confusing. Good wrestler, horrible person, shouldn't even be in discussion of Hall of Fame. Plus, he also was a locker room bully. Good wrestler, but irredeemable man. Sup, I'm back. Cherry Bomb, welcome back, man. As a pro wrestler, top 5 all time. As a person, shitty. Chemical Leaf, I don't like as a human being, but as a wrestler, he knew what he was doing. I'm like, fuck Benoit. All that great wrestling shit went out the window. What he did. I'm kind of in the same ballpark as King ZM93. The Hall of Fame should be for what you did in wrestling, not personal life. Who made the bully comment? I've heard that report like from wrestlers in the past, like The Miz, I think, referenced Chris Benoit kind of picking on him before. I'm 30, so I remember this like it was yesterday. I'm 25, I remember like it was yesterday too, man. But it seems like the general consensus in the chat. It seems like the general consensus in the chat right now is that great wrestler, horrible person. None of you will put him in the Hall of Fame, though. Maybe, I think one person, but they didn't say it directly, more so indirectly. But that's general consensus here. The Miz, I'm pretty sure I saw a story about The Miz say that, like, Benoit kicked him out of the locker room or something. Or, I don't know. I think it was Benoit kicked him out of the locker room. Something about that. Something about Benoit hazing him. Don't quote me on it directly, because I don't know the exact quote. But now that I have y'all opinions, I want y'all to hold your thoughts, be impartial. We're going to enter in this video. It's 51 minutes. It is a long video, but I got time because it's Sunday. So we are about to dive deep into a case of Chris Benoit. I'm going to be stopping in throughout this video to give my thoughts and to give criticism and a critique, so that way it is transformative as possible. We're going to watch this video together, and by the end, we're going to see if our opinions have changed at all, if it stayed the same, if we learned anything new, such and such. That being said, you guys put your headphones on, strap in, tap in, get ready, because we're talking about right now a case of Chris Benoit, video by Dreading Crime and Psychology. Let's tap in. If you're watching live on TikTok, guys, twitch.tv/suplex is the way to go to get the live best experience. Here we go.
Out of every struggle known to the human species, there is none as prevalent as a person's struggle to conceptualize their own body image and feel comfortable in their own skin. Though vices surrounding foreign substances like drugs and alcohol are more widely discussed, almost everyone has some sort of issue with their body in their life, which then led to a less than healthy response. Conversations around body image issues have become more prevalent in the last 20 years. However, discussions about them are still uncomfortable for most, while others outright refuse.
Audio double?
In the modern day...
Hold on, I think the audio double is me right now. It's me. I have my headphones off. I'm going to plug my headphones in. That way y'all don't hear a double in the background. So Twitch, TikTok, if you guys want to hear the audio, make sure you guys tap into twitch.tv/suplex. Audio is weird. All right, let me know if it improved at all.
The average person faces an
guys, let me know if you need it louder or lower. You should be able to hear me and the audio. I should be louder than the audio. Let me know.
The most attractive and most desirable people on earth.
Good now. Awesome.
How we should look. They show us what skincare we should use if we want to look like Emma Chamberlain, or
How men's perfect body types have changed throughout history. You know, we're talking about that way better. Okay, so when we talk about that, one thing in the wrestling community I see a lot of discourse about is the physique of a male wrestler. Even though a lot of you are straight men, I'm not a straight male, I'm bisexual. A lot of you watching this are straight men. I see a lot of men often talking about how they want the wrestler to be built. They gotta look like a man. They gotta look like a believable fighter in order to be a wrestler, or in order to be a believable top contender. They gotta look like a chiseled Roman Reigns or have that physique. I see a lot of people often say that they can't buy somebody up a little louder. Up a little louder. Okay, they can't buy somebody like, let's say, I don't know, Leon Ruff. They can't buy somebody like Adam Cole being a main eventer because of their body type. I see that discussion often happen a lot, so they're kind of getting into that right now. Just to give my take on it, I think if you're a great wrestler, you should be allowed to wrestle and be in the main event. If you're great at what you do, that means aspects of being in the ring and being on the mic. If you're great all round, I don't care what your body type is. Fucking do what you do. Keith Lee, he ain't physically like he's a massive guy, but he's not a brick house or anything. He's not a muscular guy. But he can move, he can talk, and he can go in the ring. So why not push him to be the main event? Adam Cole, he may not be the most aesthetically pleasing guy to look at, but he can fucking wrestle, and he can talk on the mic. Why not push him to the main event? But I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts on that? Thoughts on Gresham? I like Gresham. He's good in the ring. You got to be built, proportional. It's about selling tickets. I mean, would you guys pay to see Zack Sabre Jr. wrestle? A lot of you would pay to see Zack Sabre Jr. wrestle. And that guy's built like a noodle. A lot of you people say like he's built like a noodle, he's built like a stick. But he's one of the best pound for pound wrestlers we have out there. Just a little discussion on what to have in the middle of this video. Let's continue on.
For Jennifer Aniston, they show us the workout routine Chris Evans did for his role in Captain America and promise us that if we pay $500 a year, we too can get his results. And they show us what makeup palette was used on the set of Euphoria to give all the actors and actresses clear, dewy skin, promising us that we will look just as good if we buy it. The veritable deluge of images tell us that certain hair colors, body types, and makeup looks are found to be more attractive than others and push us to buy more products, work out more or less, and consider plastic surgery in order to meet the standards that the agencies are upholding.
I feel like unless you're Kevin Owens, you need to look somewhat imposing. It's like, oh, that's a perfect example. Kevin Owens is not built like a brick house, but that guy can talk and he can wrestle. So why the hell not? Just let them go out there and vibe and be main eventers. So I feel about it, at least.
In the modern day, we can see the extreme shift in social media alone. In 2000s,
like, I don't know, maybe my viewpoint might be different if I was like, 6'2", jacked to the gills. Maybe my viewpoint might be different because I'm 5'8" and I'm just like average body type. But who knows?
16 makeup bloggers would teach their followers how to do a full face of full coverage makeup using products meant for professional filming and special effects. Namely because the more makeup they used on their faces...
Hoodie Noah 819, thank you for the follow over on Twitch.tv. I appreciate you, man.
Now they focus on more natural, subtle looks, touting the benefits of skincare over everything else. While cognitively, we know that the advertising industries are working with the fast food, weight loss, plastic surgery, and cosmetics industries, so we continue to buy their products without thought. But we still fall into their traps, thinking that if we just buy the latest weight loss pill or eat nothing but McDonald's new zero-calorie snack.
I don't understand the smaller size arguments because it's literally UFC fighters under 150 who would kill people in a real fight. Yeah. But the thing about UFC is that the people in their weight class compete against other people in their weight class. You never really see Conor McGregor facing 250-pound Omar Jackson. Because even though Conor McGregor is one of the best fighters in the world, if he's going up against somebody who's 50 pounds heavier than him, the guy with the weight advantage likely is going to win because he packs a lot more of a punch. He could throw McGregor. He may not be faster, but he's definitely stronger, and there's a height and weight advantage. So yeah, there's a reason why in UFC, weight division is an actual thing. Because in real life, it's kind of unfair. It's an unfair fight. In wrestling, it doesn't really matter because it's scripted and fake. But in real fighting, it does matter. So,
We will be just like the smiling, happy people we see in their ads. We see it constantly, as every 10 years or so, the standard of beauty changes, and the ideal body weight, size, and look shifts radically, making it so that
Hey,
people
Suplex is
who
always
were
gracing your life.
previously
Thank you,
seen
Azana. I
as
appreciate
the ideal
you.
body type are pushed out, and therefore have to partake in aggressive weight loss, weight gain, or plastic surgery to continue to be seen as such.
Captain America.
Conversations around body image, self-actualization, and how we as a society deal with them are becoming more normal as time goes on.
Vince brainwashed his fans to like bigger guys who can barely move in the ring more than smaller guys who can go. Yeah, I do believe that Vince McMahon had a great hand at brainwashing the audiences to believe in that. I mean, when it's hammered into your head, you have all these big, juiced up, oily guys in your face every single week, every single day for years upon end, and that's all you see in the 80s and the 70s into the 90s. Yeah, you're going to start to have that mindset. So I don't necessarily blame the people because they're not the ones who were like, trained and taught that. Well, they were trained, they weren't born with that mentality. They were trained and learned it from what they watched. I'm 5'10", 290. I'm a little chubby. I get that. Come on, those guys that go to the gym. There's a physique we all have. Exactly.
But most of the conversation focuses on women, as it is still seen as taboo for men to admit to dealing with disordered eating or body image issues. For many men, strict dieting, doing excessive gym and fitness routines to the point of physical and mental exhaustion, and even taking steroids are simply seen as what is necessary to fit the ideal
Moore, what's
body
up, man?
and refuse to acknowledge any negative
You're watching
results,
the case
no
of Chris
matter how
Benoit.
terrible. And that is certainly the case today. Welcome back to another episode of Dreading, brought to you by our Patreon. Today we are going to be covering the case of Chris Benoit, a professional wrestler who would go on to do the unthinkable to his family. This video was suggested by multiple of our subscribers, as well as our patrons over on Patreon.
That was a very interesting lead-in to that was basically the, I've been out of English class too long. I forgot what it's called. Not the opening sequence. What was the hook of the video was about body dysmorphia. Like, that's a very interesting that he hooked us in with that and then led into the whole Chris Benoit intro. Very interesting. I'm doing a dirty bulk right now. It is mentally draining. I believe it. AEW, a wrestling company based on wrestling aspect body, isn't really a factor. WWE is a sports entertainment company that leans more towards bigger, stronger men, of course. Foreshadowing. Yeah. This guy's a visual storyteller, and I like it.
If there is a case you would be interested in seeing me cover,
Do you guys think AEW is going to be mentioned in this video at all? I feel like it won't be because it's Chris Benoit, and Chris Benoit wasn't around. I'm curious. I'm curious what he's going to mention outside of Chris Benoit in this video.
let me know in the comments down below.
I get the sense he's going to stick to the topic, though.
Or send
We're not going to see too many smart debates in here.
an email to dreading.official@gmail.com. This video is copyright struck by a third party, meaning that all the ads on this video go directly to that party. I wanted to make that clear before we begin, and I cannot control the amount of ads that are on this video, given the usage of footage from the WWE.
See, I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I don't have to worry about this because I have YouTube Premium. I'm just saying, y'all always talk about ads and shit. If you have YouTube Premium, you see how I have no yellow blocks here? YouTube Premium, bro. I don't have to worry about those ads and shit.
WWE, a CNN documentary, and more. With all of that out of the
As far as the copyright thing, WWE already copyrighted the first stream. They might even copyright this one for all I know.
way, let us
knows?
begin. Chris was born in Montreal,
I survived TVSI. WWE can't do shit to me.
Quebec, to Michael and Margaret Benoit. He had a singular sister, Lori, and all around, the family lived an incredibly quiet and unextraordinary life. That is, until Chris discovered wrestling. According to his childhood friends and classmates, Chris was an extremely shy and emotional kid. He was sensitive in a way that others would idly mock, and he was extremely caring to those around him. However, that kindness and sensitivity often led him to being the butt of many jokes, so he did his best to suppress it, wanting to fit in. So when Chris was introduced to pro wrestling, he decided that that was the career path he wanted to take. Chris idolized the pro wrestling scene. He saw the men as being above all others, strong, resilient, and always
The Dark Side of the Ring episode, Chris Benoit made me cry for a week. I've never actually watched the Dark Side of the Ring Chris Benoit episode. I should. I need to.
ready to defend what they thought was right. They were bigger than everyone around them, and Chris often referred to them as superheroes, and he wanted more than anything to be just like them. He began to fixate on wrestling, talking about the overly produced fights whenever he could, and begging his parents to take him to wrestling events. When he was just 12 years old, he would attend a local wrestling event featuring Tom Dynamite Kid Billington and Bret Hart. He would go on to describe this event in immense detail throughout his life, stating that this event is what inspired him to dedicate himself to the art of professional wrestling. The two wrestlers stood out above everyone else, and the way they both commanded respect and attention from the people around them entranced Chris. He referred to them as idols and became determined to follow in their footsteps.
You gotta watch it, man. The series as a whole is great. You'll love it. The only Dark Side of the Ring episode I saw was the Ric Flair one. I haven't seen the other ones. It's not that I refuse to watch them. I just never got around to them. But the Chris Benoit one, I think I might even check out after the stream's over. Maybe I will do a part 2 of the stream watching the Dark Side of the Ring episode. Would y'all be down for that? Let me know.
From that point on, Chris would begin training, which would also begin his war on his body. Those who were around Chris from this point on would talk highly of his dedication to the sport and his willingness to do whatever would put him a cut above his peers. He won numerous awards throughout his high school due to the dedication to both bodybuilding and wrestling.
Yeah, part 2. Listen, if this video does well, which by the way we opened up with like almost 50 fucking people in the stream, we probably might have to do another one. Who knows? But let's get through this one first. Again, remember what you said in the beginning. Remember what I said in the beginning. We're going to come back and see if our thoughts have changed.
In his extreme
or if we've learned anything new because of this video.
Focus was something many people emphasized. If he was told to do 100 push-ups, he would do 200. If he was told to eat nothing but protein for 10 weeks, he would do it without question. And if someone told him that he could get an edge on the competition by bashing his head through a wall, he would do that too. For Chris,
I'm not gonna lie, I wish I had that kind of motivation. Not the last part, not the bashing my head through wall. I'm sorry, I'm not flicking that kind of self-harm, but I wish I had that kind of motivation. Give me 100, I give you 200. Damn, bro, that's crazy. He's dedicated, I'll give him that.
pain didn't matter, as it would be worth
dedicated.
it just to obtain his goal. His drive to being the best knew no limits, and he was willing to take the punches both literally and figuratively. He had watched wrestlers do daring stunts, hit each other in the back of the head with chairs, and throw their bodies down with incredible force. So
I know I can. Depression's a bitch.
pain was just a small burden to bear for the dream. As he began to train, he would talk to other fighters and would be annoyed at how many didn't have what it took to be a professional. Anytime someone would talk about how squeamish they were about getting hit, how they didn't want to damage their bodies, Chris would look down at them and told them they would never make it in the field.
So that was the kind of guy he was. He was a hard ass. That's what it sounds like.
Because of Chris's intense dedication and work ethic, he stood out amongst his peers and eventually got the opportunity to train with his idol, Bret Hart. The Hart family operated a gym in the basement of their home, which they referred to as the dungeon. It was there.
Aston0824, thank you for the follow. I appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you.
And tricks of the trade, and began to adopt some of his idol's own signature moves, like the sharpshooter and the flying headbutt. Again, these moves would take a toll on his body, specifically his head, but Chris would pay no mind to the injuries. In fact,
Hey, 0824, was your birthday 4 days ago? If so, happy belated birthday, man.
he would encourage them, as he was always willing to go farther.
I actually have a friend who, well, not even a friend, more so of a coworker, and I think her Instagram also has like 0824 in it, and I'm like, was your birthday a few days ago? I never asked her.
Than any of the other wrestlers. Chris would often boast about how well
Unless you're her and you're stalking me.
he could handle hits
I hope not. That'd be kind of weird.
to his head, and would go so far as to state that he had no problem being hit by a metal chair in the ring. Though Chris was taught by Stu and other professional wrestlers how to properly take
Maga,
hits
thank you for the
and do
follow. I
moves
appreciate
like
you,
the
man.
flying headbutt with minimal injury, he was still deliberately putting his head through an immense amount of physical trauma, the likes of which would take a radical toll on his life.
So what I'm gaining from this is that he was incredibly dedicated to the craft, almost to a fault. Well, not almost, to a fault. He was that dedicated to the craft, to a fault. That's what I'm getting from it right now. See, here we go. We're getting into the CTE talk. Now, I don't know anything. Let me not say I don't know nothing. I don't know much about CTE, so I'm looking to learn something here. No, I just put random numbers on my name. Okay. I just assumed maybe your birthday was 4 days ago.
Today, for a number of years, the majority of people were not aware of the link between repeated hits to the head and rapid brain degeneration. Chronic traumatic encephalopathy or as it is more commonly known as CTE, was first observed by Dr. Harrison Martland in professional boxers. Harrison noted that boxers appeared to lack certain cognitive functions after a fight, and those functions would take a long time to return. Older boxers likewise...
Well, I mean, that kind of makes sense. If you're getting punched in your head repeatedly, I'd imagine you're going to have some level of brain damage. It may not be permanent, but you're going to have some level of... If you get punched in... That's why people always say in a fight to protect your head, protect your head, protect your head. When you're on a bike, wear a helmet, wear your seatbelt, because when your head and your brain gets damaged, you're fucked in some degree. So I could see how CTE is a real thing. Not that I ever disbelieved it, but I could see how.
Seemed to lose certain cognitive abilities as they aged, as many exhibited similar symptoms. Young men who participated in the sport would lose their memories and have difficulties in social environments where they used to thrive. Dr. Martland thus posited that it was possible that the repeated strike...
Okay, I know a lot of you, if not all of you, know who Muhammad Ali is. Because he's a world-renowned boxer, one of the greatest, if not the greatest boxer of all time. I kind of saw how he morphed in like his later life, where he kind of had like this. I don't want to mock it or anything, but like he looked almost kind of like disfigured, and like he had a great level of damage done to his brain, and he didn't operate the same way. I wonder if that had to do with the amount of punches he took over time.
Strikes to the head.
I like to believe it did.
Might be the cause of irreversible damage to the brain, and that it could likewise cause them
Muhammad
to lose
Ali has a
certain
book. I'm
brain
about to read it.
function entirely. Increased study into what Martland labeled punch-drunk syndrome would show that men and women who participated in contact-heavy sports or were struck repeatedly in the head throughout their lives would go on to experience a litany of similar symptoms.
Here's the issue. Boxers get hit in their head traumatically every 6 months to a year. Benoit is causing traumatic brain damage with that damn head every show for 52 weeks a year. Well, you bring up a really good point, but we'll come back to that. I'll take a note. I'm taking notes here. We're taking notes. We're taking notes, chat. Don't worry.
Symptoms would often materialize within a decade, long after the blows to the head in their daily lives had stopped. Symptoms of early-stage CTE would include confusion, disorientation, dizziness, and headaches. In most cases, these symptoms would be overlooked or misdiagnosed, as they could be attributed to something as little as not drinking enough water or standing too fast. However, they would then escalate to memory loss, social instability, impulsive behavior, and poor judgment. In most cases of CTE that have been observed, doctors have described their patients forgetting where they are, feeling lost and isolated, and lashing out towards those around them in fear. Everything around them feels scary and dangerous, leading to them potentially hurting their loved ones in a confused bout of self-preservation or fear. This can also lead to incredibly impulsive behavior, especially in terms of spending. Many former athletes who have dealt with CTE have had people deliberately take advantage of them in their confusion, usually taking their savings as their own and manipulating them into bad decision-making. In the final stages of CTE, the patients are slated to deal with dementia, movement disorders, hypomimia, speech impediments, sensory processing disorder, tremors, vertigo, deafness, depression, and suicidality.
Jesus Christ, there's the unaliving part.
Many patients suffering from CTE go into a deep depression, often remembering their years of athleticism with contempt and anger, as they spent the entirety of their life at the peak of physical health, only to feel as if they are being let down by their bodies. Their brain degeneration leads to them feeling useless and dependent upon others, something that they grow to resent. Though the link had been established when Chris was beginning his career, many people considered the science to be meaningless and thought that the risk was worth the rewards. While we have no way of knowing what Chris thought about the connection between his aggressive fighting style and repeated head injuries, every time he would step into the ring, do a flying headbutt, or request that he be hit in the head with a metal chair, he was putting his brain through incredible trauma that would inevitably lead to tragedy. As he continued to train, Chris would also begin to abuse steroids, so he could constantly be at peak performance. He was dedicated to being the best, in and out of the ring.
AKHBK08, thank you for following.
And his doctors that using steroids would give him a competitive edge. According to former professional wrestler Hulk Hogan,
there's Hulk Hogan. Well, all wrestlers at that time were abusing steroids. Now they have policies and acts that but you can't use steroids. I mean, a lot of people had the mindset that someone like Jinder Mahal was using steroids during his push in 2017, and some people even say that, oh, this wrestler's using steroids now because look how built they are and that kind of stuff. I think WWE now has a better hold on steroid use, especially after the steroid trials that Vince McMahon went through in the late 90s, early 2000s. But yeah, he was definitely abusing steroids and taking shots to the head, so that was a bad mix. Let's go back a little bit.
Give him a competitive edge. According to former professional wrestler Hulk Hogan, using steroids was so normalized in the professional wrestling world that everyone was using them, and that, quote, they were safer than sugar for an athlete's body. And to those who used them, steroids were worth the risk. Anabolic steroids would result in massive muscle growth, making those taking them appear to be almost superhuman. Former wrestler Lex Luger would open up about how most wrestlers were expected to take steroids, as Vince McMahon would expect them to act like a superhero when they were in the ring. Steroids also reduce muscle damage that occurs during workouts, helping athletes recover quickly and enabling them to work out more. Many professional athletes have abused steroids to achieve peak performance in their dedicated field, and in most professional sports, it's less about natural ability as it is about who can cheat the system more. However, despite them being normalized in most athletic arenas, there are a plethora of downsides to using steroids. Men usually develop prominent breasts, shrunken testicles, enlarged prostates, and experience increased rates of baldness and infertility.
I'm just saying. I don't know how a lot of y'all... I don't know how people can hear those side effects and still decide to use it. I'm sorry. As much as I would love to be built and shredded and shit, you're not taking my balls away just so that way I can look... just so that way I can look on upper body great. My low body's not going to look great. You know what I mean? I need this to look great too. I can't... in my head, I can't hear all the side effects and say, I'm still going to take this just so that way I can look buff. Especially when you are... You know, it's the weird thing because I feel like a lot of people who take steroids already look great. Like, it's the people who look great that will take steroids. It's like, you don't even need steroids. You look fine. I can understand if you were a shrimp and nothing you did worked, you start taking steroids. But it's often people who don't even need to take it that will take it. That's the part I never really got. But, you know.
Moreover, physically, they can experience high blood pressure, heart and blood circulation problems, kidney problems or failure, liver damage, and tumors. The toll steroids take on the human body are not simply limited to physical, as many men and women who have abused them develop what is known as roid rage. Roid rage has been characterized as extreme aggression and irritability, often to an unreasonable extent. It's not uncommon for those who use steroids to lash out at those closest to them, even...
Ain't nobody gonna walk around with small balls and be proud. Listen, apparently they proud because they at the gyms flex on everybody. And it's crazy to me because it's like, how you gonna have a girlfriend and be low performing in the bedroom? Or how you gonna have a guy friend and can't really perform in it well because your testosterone, well, I mean for men, it decreases your testosterone, it increases your testosterone levels, but then doesn't it like also deplete your sperm count? Like doesn't it fuck with your sperm count, steroids? It fucks your sperm count. It deregulates your ability to get it up. So it's like the negatives outweigh the positives. That's why I never could see why people would do steroids. You know what I mean?
Going so
That's me though.
far as to physically assault friends and family because of a paranoid delusion.
Gotta know how to eat out real good. I mean, I'm just saying that you could learn how to eat out the best, but if you can't put in work. Because you can't put in the work, I don't know how you're gonna keep people around. I mean, you might keep them around for a bit because but if you ain't putting in the work, you ain't gonna keep them around forever.
Caused by the steroids. Many former steroid
You can hook them to a degree with just one action, but if you have all the action, then they ain't going nowhere.
users
Being digmatized is real. You know what?
have recalled being
Let me just keep my mouth shut. Nate TV 54, thank you for the follow.
overwhelmingly paranoid and feeling as if they were acting in self-preservation, only to later realize that they had assaulted someone without cause or reason. Chris, in his desire to become a professional wrestler, would abuse steroids in order to be in the top of his field, and when he was on them, he would change immediately. His personal relationships would suffer, namely because Chris would change from a loving, warm person to a paranoid and manic person obsessed with being the best. He would lash out, sometimes violently. against his friends and family, and many would distance themselves from him, scared of what he would do in a rage. However, when Chris would inevitably settle down or stop taking steroids for a while, he would return to his gracious self, the one that wouldn't harm a hair on his family's head. But unfortunately, that wouldn't last.
We're hopping into his career. So we just got through the CTE portion. So we learned about the brain and how a lot of that stuff I already knew. But, it was nice to have a little rehash on it. So let's get into his career now.
On November 22nd, 1985, Chris made his professional debut. He was paired with the remarkable Rick Patterson against Butch Moffitt and Mike Hammer. Benoit and Patterson won the match after Benoit pinned Moffitt with a sunset flip to great acclaim. As he had before, he stood out against his peers, and it was obvious to those around him that he would go
I don't think I've ever seen a Chris Benoit interview before.
far. And while his drive and incredible work ethic was notable to those around him, it did not help him make friends in the business.
Wondering if he has steroids in the system when he offed his family? I don't think so. I don't ever remember anyone ever mentioning that to me. Whenever I've heard people talk about the Chris Benoit tragedy, no one ever mentions steroid use. We'll learn about it in this video if he did, but no one ever mentions that. So I like to believe he wasn't on it. I can't say he wasn't on anything, but he wasn't on steroids, at least when he was doing that. Or steroids wasn't in his system when he did that.
He was solely focused.
He was definitely far gone by that time, obviously, but I don't think steroids were in the system. But we'll see. We'll see.
On working out, learning new stunts, and improving upon whatever was asked of him, and would refuse
What's up with the
to
title? We're
socialize
currently
with
watching a
others
video.
unless he felt it
Twitch.tv/suplex
ultimately
is the place to go.
necessary. 3 years later, he would go on to win his first title as Stampede British Commonwealth Mid-Heavyweight Champion. He would go on to win 4 international tag team titles and 3 more British Commonwealth titles between 1985 and 1989, before joining the New Japan Pro Wrestling circuit. During that time, Chris would go on to marry his first wife, Martina. Martina and Chris would keep their relationship relatively...
We always hear about Nancy, but never about Martina. Is Martina still alive? I'm curious. Hold on. We're going to click on this real quick. Chris Benoit. Martina. Is she still alive? Martina Benoit. It doesn't say she's dead, so it looks like she's still alive. Let's go back to the video, but that is interesting. She's still alive.
Private. In many sources...
Has she been interviewed often? I feel like no one ever talks about her. Was she in the special? Was she in the Dark Side of the Ring special?
Would give conflicting information as to how they met, got married, and started a family. But according to Martina herself, their relationship was relatively loving. She described Chris as one of the most caring people she had ever met, and said that he had a secret sensitivity about him that he hid from the world. He wanted to take care of her and the family, and he was dedicated to being the main provider for them, which only furthered his professional drive. After the pair got married, they went on to have 2 children, David and Megan, and Chris, wanting to give them the life he felt they deserved, would increase his steroid use, exercise more intensely, and therefore take more damage in the ring. But instead of giving his family a happier life, this had the unintended consequence of breaking down his marriage. Though Martina was adamant that Chris had never laid a hand on her or their children, and that he was a wonderful husband and father, she did admit that when he would use steroids, he would become a different person. He would become overly paranoid and accusatory, and in one instance, threw a ceramic plate at her during a fight.
Damn. So he claimed he didn't do anything, and she's like, yeah, no, he was verbally abusive. So.
Luckily, she was able to dodge the projectile, but at that point, she knew that she had to leave him, both for her safety and the safety of the
I would have left that situation too. I don't blame her.
kids. In 1997, the two would divorce. But while his marriage was disintegrating, Chris's career was on its way up. In 1989, Chris would make his New Japan Pro Wrestling debut as the Pegasus Kid, donning a mask in the ring. 4 years later, he would win his first major championship in Japan, and cemented himself as one of the top pro wrestlers in the nation. He likewise renamed...
If I'm correct, I believe he won, the original Best of the Super Juniors, in 1994. I think he won the original one of the BOSJs. Hold on. Best of the Super Juniors. I'm pretty sure Pegasus Kid won some of the earlier ones. Hold on. Yeah, he did. He won the 1993 one. Yeah, I thought so. I remember seeing his name in there. 1993. He won the 1993 one. There we go. Did he win any other ones? No, but he did win 1993 and 1995. So he won the second best of the Super Juniors. So a little history lesson for all you anybody watching this as New Japan fan. Chris Benoit actually won the second best of the Super Juniors in 1995. Just a little did you know fact. Let's go back to the video.
Named his in-ring character to Wild Pegasus. At the same time, he traveled outside of Japan to take part in the World Championship. He continued to win titles and participate in championship matches.
He only won it because Hiromu was around. Yeah, for sure. If Hiromu was around, you know what? Let's just say this: if Hiromu was around in like 1995, they would be in the finals of the 1995 one, and Hiromu would have beat him. Let's be weird.
Matches across Japan until
They would have both been in the finals, though. They're guaranteed.
1994, when he began working with Extreme Championship Wrestling in between tours. At this time, Chris garnered the name The Crippler, given his intense fighting style that became his signature. However, this name would become morbidly accurate when, in a fight, Chris would break his competitor's neck. The injury was entirely accidental, as Chris had thrown his opponent, Sabu, with the direct intention that he would take a face-first pancake bump. However, Sabu attempted to turn mid-air so he could land on his back instead.
I think I literally, like in my head, recall exactly what spot they're talking about. Like the one where Sabu landed, like I think Chris Benoit flipped him and Sabu landed on his neck. Like that. I remember that spot. I remember watching it.
Dead. He was
also greetings, Lucas Davis.
unable to achieve a full rotation before meeting the ground and would land directly on his neck, breaking it in the fall.
Are they about to show it?
Welcome to Extreme Warfare Volume 1. This is Joey Styles. And as you can see, Crippler Chris Benoit.
Fast forward a little bit. Here we go.
Sabu dropped across the top rope.
Yep, I remember, even blurred. I still. Oh, yep, that was the spot. I remember it in my head to this day. Hold on. Look at that. Jesus fucking Christ. Yeah, I would call Chris Benoit a crippler too. He almost crippled this fucking guy. Your link for this video in the description isn't working for me. Well, I had to make a new video. I had to make a new I had to make a whole new stream because WWE took down the first one. So the link might not be working because it didn't copy it all the way, but I'll adjust it in a few minutes. Yeah, ain't no thought he did. Jesus. Let's fast forward a little bit. Wait a minute, he's been found injuring his opponents. What the fuck? Oh, you guys can't hear it? Hold on, let me back up a little bit. My bad, I forgot to unmute it. Hold on. That was the most replayed part of the video, was Sabu breaking his neck. Jesus Christ. All right, hold on. Let me play it back for you guys. Sorry about that.
Who is down? And he's hurt.
This event shook Chris to his core. He had always been fine with injuring his opponents and getting injured himself, as he believed a few hits never truly hurt anyone. A concussion, a broken bone, all of that was fair game when you were in the ring. But breaking someone's neck came with a wide range of repercussions that had never occurred to him. When it was relayed to him that his opponent's neck had in fact been broken, it was possible that he would be paralyzed as a result. Chris broke down, sobbing in the locker room with guilt. Again, it had never occurred to Chris that any of his actions against others or against himself would have lifelong repercussions, and the idea that it would was shocking. Sabu would go on
Anthony
to talk
M.
about
Anderson,
Chris
what's up,
in
man?
multiple interviews and discuss his feelings on the matter.
And the Chris Benoit incident where you got your neck broken,
This should be good.
could you discuss that?
I've never seen this interview before. I'm actually interested to hear what he's got to say.
That was an accident, and I never said held him responsible, but I didn't like him. I didn't like him before that, but I didn't really like him that much after that. But not like what I thought. I can't say I knew what he was going to do with his family, and I dislike him for that. That's for sure.
Yeah, what was the reason you disliked him before that?
I was with him in Japan, and we were never friendly together. He wasn't friendly, you know.
I see.
If you didn't wrestle him, he didn't even say hello to you, you know.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And what was he like in the ring? Well,
Oh,
obviously.
it's all business, you know.
Yeah.
He took it too serious.
And I heard you say that he actually went to the hospital that night to check on you again.
Yeah, he did. Like a sissy.
Surprisingly, Chris continued to go by the moniker The Cripple.
Hey, wait. He was tap out the Miz here. I just muted it. Bro, that's definitely Chris Benoit versus the Miz. That's definitely Chris Benoit versus the Miz.
Surprisingly, Chris continued to go by the moniker The Crippler and would be haunted by the experience for the remainder of his life.
I mean, if he wouldn't be haunted by it if he didn't go by the name for the rest of his career. He could have vouched to have his nickname changed. I'm almost sure of that, but okay.
Sabu, for his part, would make a full recovery. After his divorce from Martina, Chris would commit himself even further to wrestling, and it was there that he met his next wife, Nancy. Nancy was the wife and wrestling valet of fellow wrestler Kevin Sullivan, and sometimes wrestled for the WCW under the name Woman. Nancy was incredibly business savvy and driven, and often made a lot of the behind-the-scenes business decisions for her and her husband, leading to her having a large part in the roles that they would play. When Chris was scouted by Ric Flair to become a part of the Four Horsemen, a decision that would move him up in ranks, his first role was to be placed in a feud.
Can we just take a minute to acknowledge that The Miz has been around this long? Yes, The Miz has been around since like 06, 05. Like, The Miz has been around for almost 20 years, guys. The Miz is a veteran, like a veteran. It's crazy to say, but he really is.
Sullivan.
He's a Hall of Famer indeed in the next 5-10 years when he retires. Because he's already 40. I think 41 or something. Like, he's definitely going to be retiring in the next 5 or so years. So, when it's all said and done, he's definitely Hall of Fame ballot, like, immediate. Maybe not, like, headline Hall of Famer, but definitely, like, third from the top, second from the top, Hall of Fame ballot.
The basis for the feud was simple. Nancy and Chris were made to look like they had an affair behind the scenes, and Kevin would fight for Nancy's honor. The two men would battle it out for her hand, but in the end, Nancy would stay with her husband, or at least that's what was supposed to happen. Shockingly, when Chris and Nancy spent time together pretending to go on dates and getting footage to be used in the lead up to the fights, the pair would start an affair. According to those who knew Nancy, she was shocked and moved by Chris's sensitive side and would go out of his way to do things for her, and he was exceptionally kind, even when he didn't need to be, when they would be left alone.
Booked his own affair, Bromo. Yeah, but he worked himself into a shoot there. I would never did that shit, but
Alone, he would then open up to her about his life and motivations and why he loved wrestling so much, and Nancy was deeply moved. She would go on to tell her friends that she had something beautiful and passionate with Chris, and that she couldn't see her life without him. When the affair became real, Nancy swiftly left her husband and filed for divorce, wanting to instead be with Chris as much as possible. For Kevin, this was heartbreaking. He had played along with the charade, thinking that it was an act like any other, but he had never expected his wife to leave him. Animosity grew between Chris.
that's gotta fucking suck. Like, you literally booked your own, like, divorce. This man set up a feud with his wife to basically be cheating on him with another man, and it ended with his wife actually cheating on him or leaving him for that exact man, and then he's asked out of luck. That's gotta really fucking suck. Isn't that what happened to fucking Kurt Angle with Karen Angle and Karen Jarrett? That's basically what happened with Karen Angle, Karen Jarrett, Jeff Jarrett, Kurt Angle. I remember that storyline unfolding in TNA, bro. That was some crazy shit.
And Kevin.
It's actually insane to me that they actually booked that storyline and were professional about it to some degree. Like, it could never been me, bro. I'd be ready to fuck somebody up in the middle of the ring. It would have been a shoot. There'd been blood on the floor and everything, bro. I would have lost myself. I would have been Benoit in that moment.
Openly blamed Chris for the disintegration of his marriage. However, Chris would later state that Kevin, as much as he hated him, was never unfair to him in the ring and never went too far in their fights, even though no one would blame him if he did.
Impartial. Remember, it's white people. Yeah, no black person ever booked this fucking shit. No black person I know would book their fucking wife or girlfriend to be with another man.
He didn't let his anger get in the way
I would never do that shit.
of his professionalism, and Chris deeply respected that. Nancy's life is usually overlooked when people talk about Chris and what happened, but she was an incredibly interesting person. Nancy was born Nancy Toffaloni on May 17, 1964, and she was a Spitfire. Nancy was a go-getter and the type of woman who got whatever she wanted when she set her mind to it. If you told her no, she would find a way to turn that into a yes, usually without you realizing it. From a very young age, people knew she was going to make something of herself. It just depended on what she decided to do. She dropped out of high school to marry her first husband, Jim Doss. Jim was interested in professional wrestling, and it was through him that she would become involved in the sport, and she immediately became enamored with it. Through her appearance, she was able to gain a considerable amount of attention when she would attend events, and it was through that she would end up modeling for multiple wrestling magazines. These magazine shoots would result in her meeting up with multiple higher-ups in the wrestling world, and getting her a plethora of opportunities. But Nancy was more than a pretty face. She would network with these powerful men and women and manage them, making herself of use to them as much as possible. She made herself an asset to those who were around her, and was up for any role they could give her, leading to them giving her more and more. She was passionate about wrestling, but she was also incredibly business savvy.
Okay, does anybody recall Nancy Benoit in WCW? Out of curiosity, do any of you who watch WCW, do you recall women, Nancy Benoit's woman, wrestling, managing? I'd never watched WCW in its actual form, like when it was live, because I was like 4 when it ended. So I didn't grow up with WCW, and as I got older, I just never had the appeal to go back and watch it. But how many of you actually watched Nancy Benoit in form, and what can y'all tell me about her? Was she a good wrestler? Was she a good manager? How was she? Let me know in the comments. I'm about to grab a glass of water. I'll be right back. I'm back. Went live right here on TikTok real quick. So what do y'all have to say about Nancy Benoit? Mostly managing a little bit. I seen her on a DVD set with my dad had. Yes, I'm that old. Did you see what Heyman said about Chris? Of course, everyone did. That I can recall, she never wrestled. Beautiful, good lady. Outside of Miss Elizabeth, the best looker of her era. Okay. So that's the intel I got. I've never seen her wrestle or manage, so I can't really speak on her. She looked pretty gorgeous from my end, at least, from what I saw.
savvy, and it was no wonder why her and Chris would fall in love. After marrying Chris, Nancy would leave the world of wrestling. She no longer wanted to be a part of the wrestling world in front of the camera, citing a lot of the backlash her relationship with Chris caused. And instead, she wanted to focus on starting a family with him and would help manage Chris's career from their shared home in Atlanta. The same year they married, Chris and Nancy would welcome their only child, Daniel Christopher Benoit. Daniel was Chris's third child, but Nancy's first. And from the moment he was born, it was obvious that he had some developmental delays. There's been widespread speculation as to what was wrong with Daniel, a lot of which feels incredibly morbid and disrespectful to Daniel's short life. Some articles posting that he suffered from a rare medical condition called Fragile X syndrome, stemming from Chris's prolific steroid use. Other sources claim that he was dealing with autism, and still more speculate and theorize what was really behind the child's delays.
That's a very odd thing to speculate about. I mean, I can understand why. If a kid seems off, people are going to assume things, but that's such an odd thing to speculate about, I guess.
Regardless of what exactly Daniel was dealing with, he required supplementary care. However, because Chris was always on the road, that care fell sorely onto Nancy's shoulders. This division of care would cause a rift in the marriage, with Nancy wanting to support Chris's passions but also feeling it necessary. In numerous fights that they would have, she would ask him to take time off, stop traveling as much, or simply just take days off of training to spend time with Daniel, but Chris would reject her offer outright, like what had happened in his first marriage. Chris was dedicated to providing for his family, even if it meant that his family wasn't together. These disagreements would escalate.
Sarda, man, thank you for the follow, and it's definitely one of those things where you want to provide for your family, and your family's like, we need you at home, and it's like, well, I'm providing for you, so what do you want from me? But to what degree exactly? To what degree? I don't know. I don't have I have a family, but I'm not a breadwinner in my family. I don't have a wife or kids. I'm not the breadwinner yet in my household. I'm not the breadwinner yet. And when I get to that point, I don't know how to handle the situation. This is an interesting one, though. I don't know. How we got any men watching this video that are the head of the household? Any of you guys want to comment on that? Anybody in here, wife and kids? Any men in here, wife and kids in the chat? Feel free to comment. Feel free to elaborate on how you balance your life as far as work and family time. How do you balance that out? Let me know in the comments. Curious about what you guys have to say about it.
Especially if they occurred while Chris was using steroids, as he would often lash out aggressively due to roid rage and his own paranoia. In one instance,
I didn't do that intentionally, but yes, head of the table. Head of the table.
He told Nancy that she was trying to tank his career, and he berated her. These arguments would escalate until finally, in 2003, Nancy would file for divorce and file a restraining order against Chris, citing cruel and inhumane treatment. According to the court documents and those close to Nancy at the time, she still loved Chris, but this continued abuse of steroids caused him to become violent towards her and Daniel, and she was determined to protect her son. Chris's own paranoia and delusions caused by the steroids would eventually subside, but when he was confronted with what he had done, Chris apologized to Nancy. He told her he would stop taking steroids in the home, and he would make more of an effort to be at home with Daniel, and he begged her for another chance.
I mean, that's a good thing. At least he has some morale.
It was everything that Nancy wanted to hear, and it was everything she had been begging him for.
It's tough. Don't have kids, but I take care of my mom and my sister, so sleep most of the time isn't an option. Nah, bro, I'm 16, savoring the last 9 days I have off school. She should have stayed from Chris. Give me a break. So sleep is not, most time isn't an option. Yeah, I get that, bro. I get that.
Still in love and wanting to raise her son with his father, she took Chris back, dropping the divorce and restraining order. Before we continue, it's important to note that
as the head of the table, there is no balance. You either make money or you end up in the ringer. Time management is difficult, but you have to use your free time wisely. I can see that.
exceedingly common in abusive relationships, especially when there is...
I mean, I kind of have that thing right now, and it's not even to that degree because, like I said, when I come home, I'm come home to one person, and that's my mom most of the times. She's on vacation right now, so it's just me at house. But like, I don't have to come home to a significant other or kids. So when I come home, I normally only have to worry about one person. That's myself. My mother too, but I have to worry about myself. So for me, my balance is work and family and content creation, because those are my passion. My passion is content creation. I love streaming. I love making content for you guys, entertaining you guys, and providing value for you guys. And that takes a lot of time and a lot of work, because as of right now, I've been streaming for an hour and a half. That's an hour and a half I could have been using towards hanging out with my family or doing something else. I don't want y'all to feel bad, but that could have been put towards something else. But I chose to stream because I want to not only give you guys content, but I want to further my potential career in content creation, because as a man, you should always strive to want more. And that strive to want more means you have to do better than what you did yesterday. And doing better than what you did yesterday normally leads to you making more money, so that way you can provide for others. That's what it is to be a man, is to provide for others and make sure that you have your head on straight in the process of that. So yes, there are a lot of times in my life and now where I choose to do this over hanging out with friends or going out to a family event, because I feel like as a man, that's what you have to do. You have to do this to get somewhere in life. So yeah, I get that to an extent. I obviously get that. I get that. I feel like as men, we know our the dedication to our craft is extremely important. Maybe not more important than family, but it's extremely important to us to have something that we're striving for and striving towards, so that way we know that we are able to provide for our loved ones. So sometimes that means that you have to sacrifice putting time out for sleep, putting time out to go out with friends and have drinks, or putting time out to maybe go see your cousin or see your brother, or put time out to playing video games just to make sure you get shit done, so that way the next day you know your life is set up better than it was yesterday. I think us as men, we know that, and if you don't know that yet, you'll know that very soon.
There's a child involved that the abused party will try to.
I've got a wife and 2 kids. I'm the breadwinner. It's hard sometimes because you feel this constant pressure to perform at work. Time management is hard, and time with the kids is hard because you constantly thinking about work and what's next. Yeah, we're always on go, man. And it's all, and the worst part is it's often a thankless job. It's often a thankless job. From other men, from the women, from the kids. You just go and go and go and go, and you just hope that everything's going to be okay, and know that everything should be okay. Even if that means nobody really gives you a great thank you.
Leave and end up going back to their partner. That, of course, does not exempt their partner for the blame of the abuse. In some reporting, many have been incredibly harsh towards Nancy's decisions, as they feel as if she should have left when she had the chance. However, things are never that clear-cut, and if you haven't been in the same situation, it's hard to understand the pull an abuser can have on a person.
Of course, yeah, like, no one really truly knows until they're in that situation where they're being manipulated and they're being abused or harassed or sometimes even coerced. Like, you never truly know. Like, it's very easy to say, oh, just leave them. Like, I was kind of having this conversation with one of my friends. I'm not going to say his name or anything, but just kind of to give you guys a piece of that. He was talking to me the other day about how his girlfriend at the moment, like, she doesn't feel like he respects him as a man, because she's always putting him down in arguments, and he's talking about how, oh, you know, my ex did better than you, and da 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 da, my ex this, my ex that, you're worse than them, da da da, like this kind of stuff. But then she would cry after the argument, say, I am so sorry, I shouldn't have said that. And he would talk about how, like, it hurts him. And I'm sitting there and I'm telling him, like, bro, listen, like, I know you love her and all, but she obviously doesn't respect you. Like, she doesn't like, if she is bold enough to tell you to your face that you are worse than her exes and that she wished that she was with her exes over you, she doesn't respect you. She might love you, but she doesn't respect you, bro. If she's bold enough to say that to your face. And if you tell her that it hurts when you say this to me and she still does it, it's manipulative. Like that's straight grade A, like degrading manipulation that she's doing. Like she has a chokehold on you. And I'm like, bro, the only way to fix this, I'm like, because he's like, oh, well, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, well, first of all, if she's done this to you this many times and you're still with her, nothing that you say or do is going to change her actions. She's going to keep doing it because sadly you've allowed her to do this too many times. The only option you have is just to leave her at this point. Like, you either can stay with her and keep having this happen to you, or you can leave her. And it's like, I want him to leave her, but it's like, I can't do anything about that. That's not my relationship. Like, the best thing you can do is just tell them what the best course of action is. But if they're in that mindset of this person loves me, even though they're in an abusive relationship, there's nothing you can do but just kind of let it play out and hope that maybe they'll realize it someday. So that's kind of my experience with, like, you know, knowing somebody in an abusive relationship is like, most times they know it's wrong, but it feels right to them in some odd way because of a past trauma that they have. This is probably what Nancy has. Or like, they're not even Nancy, because she took out the restraining order. She knew this was wrong. But like, people know, like, they associate this with like it being right in some way. Some part of their brain associates that abuse with this is how love is shown, even though it's not. And it's really sad. It really is.
Please remember to take that into consideration, especially if you watch and listen to true crime related content. A simple, she should have just left him, is much easier said than done.
As I just said, it's much easier said than done. Much easier said than done.
After Nancy and Chris reconciled, their marriage was said to be near perfect by those who were around them. Chris would still abuse steroids, but according to Nancy, he was using them much less, and often would only use them when he was on the road touring. He still didn't spend as much time with Daniel, despite what he had promised her, but she was appreciative that he was at least making an effort. His storylines in the ring were beginning to wind down, with many fights being against younger wrestlers, with him predetermined to lose. Still, he continued to fight on, dedicated to being the kind of person he hoped kids would look up to. But everything changed on November 13th, 2005.
This is the day Eddie died. Okay.
Guerrero was a longtime friend of Chris and fellow wrestler. The two had met in the ring and became close friends after Chris had kicked Eddie in the head and knocked him out cold. They were exceptionally close, and Chris considered Eddie to be his closest friend, which is why he was devastated to find that on November 13th, 2005, Guerrero was found unconscious in his hotel room by his nephew, Chavo, who was also a professional wrestler. The pair were traveling together, and when he found his uncle, he was passed out in the bathroom, toothbrush in hand, barely clinging to life. Unfortunately, by the time the paramedics would arrive, Eddie would be pronounced dead. It was later revealed that he had died as a result of acute heart failure due to an underlying atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, which was likely caused by steroid use. For Chris, this death was devastating. Eddie had been his companion for years, and after having...
So, before we continue on, everybody in the chat knows who Eddie Guerrero is. November 13th, 2005. How many of you guys can recollect where you were and how you felt when you heard the news that Eddie Guerrero died? I still remember hearing that news that Eddie Guerrero had died, and I didn't really have much of a reaction to it because I didn't really have a connection to Eddie Guerrero growing up. I wasn't a big fan of his. But I remember thinking, like, wow, that's sad. Like, somebody who I watched died. Like, I'm at that age. I'm like, what, 8? So I don't have like a semblance of like tragedy towards another wrestler dying, because like I don't think my brain really processed that at the time. I was only 8 years old. But how many of you guys remember that? And how did it make you feel when you learned about that? I know a lot of Hispanics and Mexicans in the chat. I know that was very heartbreaking for them, because Eddie Guerrero was a tremendous representation for a lot of Latinos and Mexicans and Hispanics out there. So I definitely want to hear from you guys about this. As a Hispanic wrestling fan, that really hit my soul, and I was only 6. Who remember me? I cried for both deaths really bad. Woke up in the morning ready for school, and when I found out everybody was talking about it in school, I was born in 2006, so I wasn't born yet at the time Eddie died. I cried, no cap. R.I.P. Eddie Guerrero. Yeah, it was... like I said, for me, I didn't have a connection to Eddie Guerrero, so I didn't really feel upset. But I did feel like, wow, this is kind of sad. Like this wrestler that I know about, because I can't say that I really like watched or admired him. I watched his matches growing up. I knew who he was, but like I didn't admire him. Or I wasn't a fan of his, so like I didn't really feel like it was like a tragic death for me. But I still recall it. I still recall all the news channels covering the death of Eddie Guerrero
Being his friends, life ripped out from under.
and the tribute show. I remember the tribute show too. I do not remember where I was, but I remember I watched the tribute show where I was when the Chris Benoit stuff happened. Benoit and Guerrero hit me different because I went to the 2004 Royal Rumble. Wow, the 2004 Rumble, bro. Jesus. And the WrestleMania with him as well. Jesus Christ. So you really lived through that shit.
Under him, with no warning signs, was incredibly heartbreaking. After he was pronounced dead, Raw and SmackDown both aired tributes to Eddie's life, and in both tributes, Chris would break down.
Eddie Guerrero is my best friend, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that he knew that would be able to say the same thing about him. He was such a beautiful person, such a kind-hearted person. I couldn't find I couldn't find the words. Words couldn't describe what kind of a human being Eddie truly was. I've known Eddie for just about 15 years and spent a good portion of them 15 years with him on the road. We laughed together, cried together, fought each other. We've been up and down each and every mountain, each and every highway. And Eddie always led by example. He was the one friend that I had that I could go to and pour my heart out to if I was going through something.
One thing I always hear about with Chris Benoit is just how close he was to Eddie and how much it truly affected him. And I guess we're going to get into that after this interview is over. But yeah, apparently the death really affected Chris Benoit. And I don't know, I can't say that was the motivating factor, but apparently it really affected him in that latter half because that's a 2-year gap between Eddie's death and Benoit's death. Double red rum unaliving.
If I had a personal issue or a personal problem, he was the one guy.
I was at a Pizza Hut in Okinawa when I heard about Chris Benoit's death. Yeah, I knew they were investigating it as a red rum unaliving, to which it was really hard for me as a fan. Had to be about 10. Vicky, yeah, I remember that. When I heard about Benoit's death, I was watching at home from TV. I was 10, still living in like Philly.
Could call and talk to and know that he would understand and he would talk me out of it, because of all the experiences that he'd been through. I believe in leading by example, and Eddie always led by example through his life, through the obstacles that he went through and conquered and became a better person, and he'd often use that as an example. A lot of times we traveled on the road together, so on the road it's so chaotic, and so from the time we got up in the morning, we'd be 2 hours behind schedule. But it's funny because we'd pull up to a gym and we'd find ourselves sitting outside the gym for up to an hour and a half, just talking. We'd just sit there, sit in the car, talking about life, talking about the past, present, future. We just talk about life. Eddie was that kind of friend to me.
They definitely feel like they had like a special relationship.
It'd be 1 in the morning.
Very close,
and we'd be
male
sat in the car
bromance
till,
bonding relationship.
3 in the morning, talking about life, talking about things and issues and problems and everything. We talked about everything, and we never left each other without telling each other that we loved each other. And I truly can say that I love Eddie Guerrero. He's a man that I can say I love, and I love his family, and my heart and my thoughts and my prayers go out to his wife Vicky, Shaw, Cheryl, and Kaylee. I can't imagine the sorrow that they're going through right now and the emotions that they're feeling. But I want them to know that my prayers and my thoughts are with them. And Eddie,
He definitely sounds like a hurt man. I'll tell you that much.
I know that you.
You can hear the hurt in his voice, bro. It is very sad to listen back to. Not, like, even knowing what Chris Benoit will later go on to do, it's really sad hearing it back. You can hear the pain in his voice.
You're in a better place, and I know that you're looking down on me right now. I only know that I love you. I miss you.
There's the tears.
Eddie, you made such a great impression on my life, and I want to thank you for everything you've ever given me. And I want to thank you from my heart and tell you that I love you and I'll never forget you.
Oh, man, you're getting me up in my feelings hearing this shit, man.
And now we'll see each other again. I love you, Eddie.
Many were shocked at Chris's
Yeah, that's really heartbreaking hearing. That was my first time actually hearing that. That is really heartbreaking, man.
emotional displays. Usually, the
In the West, yeah, really all over the world, we don't normalize men crying because it's seen as weak. Men crying is seen as weak, and not just the West, but the entire world. Like, that's how men are viewed, as strong men who could take on anything. But when you're at your lowest of lows, man, sometimes you just gotta let that shit out. Because us men, we bottle shit up. We will bottle it up and bottle it up and bottle it up until we blow up. And eventually we do end up crying, whether it be in silence or whether it be like we're at our wits' end and it's in front of somebody we can feel vulnerable against. Like, we, you know, man. I mean, he was vulnerable enough to do it in front of these people, so hats off to him. If I had a friend like that, if anything ever happened to him, I would be torn up, bro. Yeah, man. Like, when my brother, y'all know, my brother passed away. We're coming up almost a year that he passed away. It was October 29th of last year. Man, that I didn't really feel it until the funeral in November, but man, I like hearing Benoit cry. It put me back to when I felt like I was having, like, I was talking to my brother's funeral. I was tore up, man. I was getting choked up hearing, like, Benoit cry, because, like, it took me back to, like, when my brother passed away and how hurt I felt about that. So I can only imagine, you know. Shit, I'll cry in a car. I don't care. I gotta feel good and move throughout my day. Same. I was thinking my mom died. Like, I think every one of us have had somebody close to us that we've lost, and we all remember how we felt. And, you know, you didn't want to cry in front of people you cared about, but you had to let it out at some point.
men in professional wrestling take extraordinary care to appear untouchable and tough, but his raw vulnerability, both in the ring and in his dedication to Eddie, touched many. It was only later that people would begin to see his display as a potential warning sign. In the CNN documentary Death Grip, Inside Pro Wrestling, Chris's emotional state, when it came to his friend's passing, would once again be put on display when his diary entries from the time would be publicized.
This is an open letter to Eddie on November 24th, 2005.
Mike Benoit is reading the diary his son wrote over an 11-day period in 2005.
Mike Benoit?
The diary consists of rambling letters to his best friend. His son wrote.
November.
Wait, so Chris Benoit's dad is reading these? Wow, that's gotta be really heart-wrenching.
24th, 2005.
Mike Benoit is reading the diary his son wrote over an 11-day period in 2005. The diary consists of rambling letters to his best friend, a wrestler named Eddie Guerrero. The first entry, the first note to Eddie, was written on November 23rd, 10 days after his 38-year-old friend dropped dead of a heart attack.
38. That's incredibly young. Oh my God. I mean, I always knew it was young, but like 38? You didn't even reach 40 yet, bro. Jesus. Like, Kenny Omega's 38 or 39. Kenny Omega's that age. It's too young to be gone, man. Life is too short, man.
Oh, Eddie, I forgot to tell you about my dream last night. I dreamt that both my parents were taken, perished.
Mike Benoit believes it's the diary of his son going mad.
And Nancy and I were trying to get to her parents in Daytona to save them because we felt that they were being taken next. And these people after them were very powerful people, high-ranking people. When we got to Daytona, it was too late. Her parents were gone too, perished. We just didn't understand this was going on at that time in Chris's life.
Chris's mind was unraveling. The continued
Yeah, Chris was going through it, man.
steroid use alongside painkillers and consistent head injuries
When you combine alcohol, drugs, sleep deprivation, all the bumps, and grieving, it's a fast track to death. Yeah, all that shit's just not a good combination.
was causing his grip on reality to slowly loosen. According to those around him at the time, he was a man of few words and seemed generally fine, although they would admit that he did seem a bit slower. His diary would go on to showcase his losing his grasp on the world, thinking that people were going to try and take his son away from him, and his fears about his own mortality. According to friends of Nancy, she began to worry about his mental well-being. There were times where he would refuse to let her or Daniel go out of the house, worried that something would happen to them. He would drive around for hours, trying to make sure people weren't trying to follow him home, and at one point had purposely driven on the wrong side of the road to make sure he was safe. He was consistently on edge, but managed to keep his feelings somewhat under wraps. After Eddie's passing, more and more people were openly discussing the death rate of relatively young wrestlers, and the idea that steroid use was an underlying factor began to make Chris
It absolutely was an underlying factor in why the death rates of wrestlers were so young and still are very young to a degree.
more paranoid. He had been using drugs for over a decade and knew that they could make him violent, but the idea that there were long-standing effects had not occurred to him, according to his diary. Chris began to spiral into a deep depression. He was still reeling from Eddie's death over a year later, and his grasp on what was real and what wasn't was loosening. Not only that, but he was beginning to suffer the side effects from the sheer amount of damage he had done to his head over his career. Repeated concussions, flying headbutts, and purposely taking metal chairs to the head had begun to catch up with him, and he would have rampant bouts of confusion, loss of memory, and paranoia. Though many didn't realize it at the time, Chris was battling the final stages of CTE, and his brain scans would show that at the age of 40, his mind was roughly the same as a man twice his age, suffering from the late stages of dementia. He had lost a certain amount of brain function, which caused his depression to be more severe, and his paranoia to run rampant. Despite his rapidly declining mental and physical health, those around Chris didn't notice anything was wrong.
You know, that's the thing I always hear when people have that defense for Chris Benoit, is that his brain was that of an 80-year-old man with dementia. That's the defense I always hear for Chris Benoit. And it is sad to hear that. And I have a response for that, but I think I'll wait until close to the end to say that, to say what I have to say on it. I'm trying to gather all the information before I come to a conclusion, so I'm not going to elaborate too much on that.
The prized fighter, and on June
But that is a rebuttal I often hear. It's about the state of his mind at the time when he did what he did. Sadly, it seems like he really thought he was keeping them safe. Yeah. Honestly, I wanted to be a wrestler as a kid, but when I saw situations like this, wrestling didn't seem so fun anymore. It scares me when Drew does the headbutt and Brian. It really makes you think, man.
25th, 2007, they would be shocked at what he would go on to do.
Here we go. Here we go.
What happened June 22nd, 2007 will always be showered in mystery. No one could say for certain what caused Chris to decide to murder his wife. What we do know is that Nancy had taken therapeutic amounts of Xanax, hydrocodone, and hydromorphone, which all had been properly prescribed to her. At 9:52 p.m., a phone from the Benoit home made a call to 411, and they were given the number for the police non-emergency line. However, who called and why they needed the number is unknown. Shortly thereafter, 2 more calls were made, this time to their neighbor, Holly McFay's cell phone. Unfortunately, she was unable to answer the phone and no message was left, so we cannot say for certain who called or why. It has been speculated that Nancy was calling both 411 and Holly because something was wrong with Chris, something that she felt wasn't serious enough to warrant a call to the police, but was unsafe for Daniel to be around.
You know, I always hear that theory that Kevin was the one calling. Anyone heard that theory? Anyone believe that theory in the chat? That Kevin was the one calling from inside the house? Or was it Nancy? Was it Benoit? We don't know. Speculation. But we'll continue on.
So she might have been attempting to find a safe place for her son while she took care of Chris. However, we cannot know for sure, as after these phone calls were placed, Nancy would be killed by Chris. According to the autopsy, Nancy had suffered a blow to the head before pinning his knee into her back and wrapping a TV cable around her neck, drawing it tight until she stopped breathing. He then left her on their shared bed, putting a Bible by her body, and went to sleep. The next day, he spurred a TV cable. Nancy
Go back.
suffered a blow to the head before pinning his knee into her back.
So he knocked her out.
And wrapping a TV cable around her neck, drawing it tight until she stopped breathing.
So he knocked her out and then he choked off the TV cable until she died, and then he went to sleep. Jesus Christ, that's so morbid.
He then left her on their shared bed, putting a Bible by her body, and went to sleep. The next day, he spent time with Daniel before drugging him with Xanax.
So I'm guessing Daniel was unaware that all this happened.
The next day, he spent time with Daniel before drugging him with Xanax. Once Daniel was passed out, he then slowly suffocated his son, once again leaving a Bible next to him. At that point, he began to Google how to break his own neck quickly.
Jesus.
And it was clear he wanted to die in a similar way to what he had accidentally done earlier in his career, and settled on hanging himself and began to Google how to break his own neck quickly.
That's a full circle one. That's a very full circle moment there. How to break your neck quickly.
And it was clear he wanted to die in
well, we know for sure it was premeditated just from that alone.
A similar way to what he had accidentally done earlier in his career, and settled on hanging himself in his favorite room in the house, the gym. There are varying reports on whether he was able to break his own neck, but shortly after killing both his wife and son, he hung himself. But it would be a while before anyone would find the bodies. On Saturday, June 23rd, Chavo Guerrero, Eddie Guerrero's nephew and fellow wrestler, received a text from Chris saying that he had missed his plane and wouldn't be able to meet up before their match. Hung himself, but it would be a while before anyone would find the bodies. On Saturday, June 23rd, Chavo Guerrero, Eddie Guerrero's nephew and fellow wrestler, received a text from Chris.
Okay, that makes more sense. Because I'm saying, like, wait, man, how the fuck did you check somebody if you're dead? But they're saying that he texted him in between the days where he killed his wife and son, so that makes sense. Exactly, kill him with his finisher. He should have faced the consequences. He took the easy way out. Yeah, I mean, he couldn't. I guess he couldn't live with what he did. Leaving the Bibles next to the dead bodies, I think, was his way of wanting them to, be their souls to be saved. Did he leave a Bible next to himself, or just his wife and his son?
Saying that he had missed his plane and wouldn't be able to meet up before their match that night in Beaumont, Texas.
Why would he Google that though? Most people who want to commit suicide take drugs or use a gun. I mean, maybe he wanted to feel it. Maybe he wanted it to not. I mean, he wanted to break his neck quickly, so he didn't want it to be agonizing. But maybe he wanted it to. He obviously wanted to go out a very specific way. He wanted to break his own neck, like bro said, like similar to how he broke Sabu's neck. Like he wanted to go out a very specific way. I mean, we'll never know why, but it was very telling. He wanted to go a very specific way. He wanted to make sure his neck was snapped.
He claimed that Nancy and Daniel, who at that point had already been killed, were experiencing an extreme bout of food poisoning, and he was nursing them back to health.
He lied, fucker.
Given Chris's dedication to wrestling and his impeccable record, no thought was given to if he was telling the truth or not, and Chavo understood. After talking to Chris on the phone, Chris stated that he loved him with a certain amount of emphasis that felt unnatural to Guerrero, and hung up. Shortly after the call, Benoit was seen by his neighbor, Holly, and stated once more that Nancy and Daniel were extremely sick inside, and he was taking care of them.
Lying. Again.
No one else heard from Benoit.
Again, recall that he killed his wife and son, and then lied to everybody about it. This was premeditated. He didn't do this in an act and then just do it. This wasn't an act that he did in the heat of the moment. He had to have thought about this and planned it out, and then went and killed himself.
Until 3:53 a.m. Sunday, when he sent out a blast of text messages to Chavo Guerrero. My physical address is 130 Green Meadow Lane, Fayetteville, Georgia, 30215. The first message read. 2 minutes later, he sent another text saying, "The dogs are in an enclosed pool area, garage side door is open." Chris also utilized Nancy's phone and sent the same texts to multiple different contacts, hoping that someone would understand. But given the time that they were sent, many just thought it was an accidental message. It would be another day before red flags were raised and the WWE would call for a welfare check, would be to understand, and sent the same text.
So it seems like he wanted them to be found. The way he was sending out those texts like, hey, this is my location, the dogs are locked up, garage door. Basically, he wanted to be found. He wanted to make sure people saw what happened. That's what it sounds like to me.
Contacts, hoping that someone would understand. But given the time that they were sent, many just thought it was an accidental message. It would.
So this is a man, 80-year-old man. No, like I said, this was premeditated. This sounds like he planned this whole thing out. You can be 80 years old and still plan out something. Like you. Just because you're 80 years old doesn't mean you don't have the cognitive function to plan out something. Even an 80-year-old man to come up with a strategy. It may not be perfect. It might be flawed. But he has the functions to come up with a strategy. Chris Benoit had a strategy in how he wanted things done. The way in which he meticulously killed his wife and sent those texts out so that way they could be found, placing the Bible next to them. This is not a heat of the moment thing. I'm sorry. It doesn't sound like a heat of the moment thing. It sounds like he planned this all out.
Be another day before red flags were.
You could talk about with the state of his brain, but he definitely planned this out.
Raised, and the WWE would call for a welfare check to be done at the home.
Hi, I just spoke to one of the other officers there. My name is Dennis Fagan. I'm a retired detective in New York City. I run the security for World Wrestling, and one of our wrestlers that lives down there is missing, and he told me to say we need a welfare check done.
Okay, what's the address?
130 Green Meadow Lane. The zip code is 30215.
All right, Dennis, what's your last name?
Fagan, F-A-G-A-N.
And what's his name?
Chris Benoit. It's spelled B-E-N-O-I-T.
Okay, and he's a wrestler?
Yes, what happened, he's a very religious gentleman, and yesterday he was supposed to show up at a pay-per-view and never got on the plane, never showed up. They've tried to reach his wife, Nancy. She doesn't answer. They tried to call his house. It's out of character for him. So at 3 o'clock this morning, there was a message left for one of the other wrestlers, and basically it says, the dogs are in the backyard, the back door is open, goodbye. And that was it.
Dogs?
Again, the way he sequenced this out, he wanted people to find his body. He wanted people to find the scene. He didn't want this to be hidden from the world. He wanted people to find them. He didn't want to be He didn't want to be saved. He just wanted the people to discover him. Because at the end of the day, the time in which he sent the text, and then the time in which he killed his son and himself,
in the yard.
Maybe he would have had enough time. If someone would have read the text right away, went straight to his house, maybe they would have had enough time to save him and his son. But Nancy would have still been dead by that point. So.
And the back door's open. He didn't say anything else, and that was it.
If I'm correct, if he sent that message on Saturday, Nancy was already dead on Friday, right? $3:30 on Saturday. When did Nancy die? Nancy died on Friday. Yeah, by the time he sent the text out, he already killed Nancy. So they couldn't have saved her. No, I'm just trying to recollect when he killed David. June 23rd. So yeah, he killed his son the same day that he made the text and the calls. So if he killed them the same day, then yeah, he wanted them to be found. It wasn't a saving thing. He was going to do it anyway. So that's terrible when you think about it. It's very morbid when you think about it. The fact that he already had killed his wife, and then he went and texted his friends and family saying, hey, come find me at this location just so that way you could see all of our fucking dead bodies. Like, that's fucking terrible, dude. You want to traumatize everyone else in your fucking surroundings? Like, that's terrible. He literally planned to traumatize his whole entire family over this shit. That's insane.
The message was left
Jesus.
at 3 o'clock this morning for another restaurant.
At least if you gonna kill yourself, even for the police to find, don't fucking traumatize others over your fucking grievance. And I'm sorry if it sounds harsh, but that's like if someone were to... That's like people who jump in front of a fucking train to kill themselves. It's like, you really killed yourself in front of all these fucking people? Now, not only are you dead, but now 30 people are fucking traumatized. Like, why did you need to go and make everyone else's life miserable for the rest? Why did you need to go and scar people for the rest of their life? Like, if you were in pain, I'm sorry that you are in pain, and I hope you get help. But don't drag others with you if you're in pain. Like, that's the worst thing you can do. If you're in pain, the worst thing you can do is drag innocent people into your line of sight. That's the worst thing you can do, is drag others into your line of sight because you're in pain. I can never get behind that. If you are hurt, get help. Seek help. Please seek help. But don't drag others down with you to do it. Like, don't intentionally drag others with you. That's the worst thing you could do, is to drag others with you. Especially if you're intentionally doing it and you know you're intentionally doing it. I could never get behind that mentality. Ever. Like that whole, oh, if I feel pain, you gotta feel pain too. Yeah, it's fun and funny, haha, to joke about it, but like, and seriously, don't fucking do that shit. Don't fucking hurt people. Don't hurt people because you're hurt. Like the quote, hurt people. Like, yeah, it's a quote and it's a real quote, but like, don't fucking do that, bro. Especially innocent people who don't deserve it. I'm sorry to get passionate about that, but that shit really infuriates me.
Okay, and that's 130 Green Meadow Lane.
Yes.
Okay, and what's the phone number for you?
My cell is 646-739-1992.
Okay, what does he look like?
Chris is about 6'1", very muscular, very stocky, has a very wide neck.
What were you saying? Dementia means poor judgment, memory loss, hallucination, impulsiveness. This video did not mention the alleged Google search of him trying to bring a dead boy back to life. Well, it don't matter if he tried to look up how to bring my son back to life. He killed his son. It don't fucking matter if he did the research on how to bring him back to life. I don't give a fuck if he tried to bring his son back. He killed his son. It don't matter. He killed his son. So it don't matter if he tried to bring him back to life. You killed him. It could be a different story if someone else did and you're trying to bring him back to life. Motherfucker, you killed him. You should want to bring him back to life. It's your fucking fault. Dementia my fucking ass.
Looks like a wrestler.
Okay. White male, black male?
Yes, male white.
White male.
I would sure hope he looked that shit up and he's not that fucking cold heartless, but it don't matter because he killed them already.
Okay.
He's got short black hair.
Okay. All right. We'll go ahead and send somebody out there to check on him. If you want to call us back in like 45 minutes or so. If they number I should call back? Yeah, it's 770 461 4357. 4357. Yeah, and if he's there, we'll tell him to give you a call.
What I won't take is the hypocrisy. Half of y'all rock with companies that deal with murder, racist on a daily, so let's not pretend y'all are on a different moral ground. What are you talking about? Half of us rock with companies that deal with murders and racists on a I don't even know what you're trying to get into there with the whole hypocrisy. So wait a minute, are you trying to say because... I'll come back to that in a second. Hold on, where's the comment you said about Hitler? I will always see people defending him, saying he was a great wrestler. Imagine Hitler was a great wrestler. Would people still defend him as well? If Hitler were a great wrestler, I guarantee you there's somebody out there that would defend him because he was a great wrestler. I'm guarantee you people would defend him because he's a great wrestler. Be damned all the Jews that were killed in World War II and in the Holocaust. Hitler was the best at everything he did in terms of outside of the murders and the acts that he committed in the 1940s. So everything he did in the past be damned. Somebody out there has the mentality. It's not me, but somebody out there probably has the mentality. No matter how evil somebody is, there will always be somebody backing them. Never forget that. Never forget that. Some people are just delusional and they're ignorant and they're bigoted. And sometimes they're downright evil. It doesn't matter what they did. Someone has a fan. Everyone has a fan. Never forget that. Everyone has a fan. At least one fan. You yourself listening, you have one fan. It might be your mom, might be your dad, might be your friend. You have a fan out there that will stand by what you did. No matter what. Everyone has a fan. Don't forget that.
But if you want to call back and check to see if we, if anybody was there or anything, just call us back in about 30, 45 minutes. Anybody can talk to you. It doesn't matter. They're going to ask if they...
Why would he want to bring him back if his plan was to kill him? Because he felt remorse. Have you never heard of the word remorse?
Remorse.
The word remorse means deep regret or guilt for a wrong committed. The answer to your question is remorse. It's a one-word answer. It's remorse. He wanted to bring his son back because he realized he killed his son. If that's exactly what happened.
The address again.
If that's exactly what went down and he looked that up, it was likely remorse because he did it.
Yeah, but that's about it, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Hi, you reached Dennis Fagan. Leave your name and number, and I will get right back to you. Thank you.
When you have finished recording...
Hitler wasn't that bad. I hope you weren't being serious with that tweet saying Hitler wasn't that. I hope you weren't being serious with that. Are you being serious? Honestly, even if you were being serious, I don't know if I could get down with that comment saying Hitler wasn't that bad. Stalin had better numbers. And how about you go sit in timeout and think about what you just said? Yeah, how about you sit in timeout and think about what you just said?
You may hang up or press pound for more options.
Mr. Fagan, this is the Fayette County Sheriff's Dispatch. I do have a couple of deputies out at Mr. Benoit's residence, but the gate is locked and there are two pretty aggressive canines, or aggressive German Shepherds out there that our deputies are unable to get in. If you happen to have a gate code,
hold on.
It's locked and there are two. I do have a couple of deputies out at Mr. Benoit's residence, but the gate is locked and there are two pretty aggressive canines, or aggressive German Shepherds out there that our deputies are unable to get in.
So Benoit said in the text that the gate is open and the dogs are locked up, but it's saying that the gate is locked and that the dogs are out. So he didn't even do that. This dude lied again. He lied again. He lied.
You happen to have a gate code?
You could say dementia. That could be your excuse. I know a lot of y'all like to play the dementia card with this man. Maybe he forgot.
Thing for him, if you could give me a call back at 770-461-4357. 770-461-4357. Thank you very much. Mr. Fagan.
Yes.
Hey, this is with Sheriff's Department Dispatch.
Yes, sir. How are you?
I'm doing good.
What's been discussed so far? I don't know if I'll bring up something that's already been. We talked about we're touching on about everything. I mean, listen, if you have a talk point, bring it up, man. We can reiterate. It doesn't matter.
Did you get my message, or did you just?
No. I just called the number back.
Okay, very good. I do have a couple of deputies out at Mr. Benoit's house.
Okay.
But the gate is locked, and they're unable to get inside.
The gate is locked.
Dark Side of the Ring goes more in depth. If you guys want to see us do part 2, and I watched Dark Side of the Ring for the first time, like this video up and let me know. We could definitely do so in the next coming days or whatever.
And the message that we is locked.
At Mr. Benoit's house.
Okay.
But the gate is locked, and they're unable to get inside.
The gate is locked.
Yeah, you wouldn't happen to have a code for that, would you?
No, I don't. And the message that we got, like I say, left a message at 3 o'clock in the morning for another wrestler.
Right.
The gate's open, the dogs are in the backyard by the pool, and the back door's open. That was it.
Right. Yeah, 'cause apparently
That's why they're worried about him, because Chris is very, born again Christian, very religious.
Right.
It's unlike him. He didn't show up for a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
He never made it to the plane. They can't reach his wife. So now nobody's answering the home phone. Nobody's answering the cell phone.
Yeah, and I think as far as, I'm not sure how far away from the road the house is, so I'm not sure if they're able to tell if anybody's there. But they, like I said, the gate. It's got a call box. Apparently nobody's answering.
I just got here from work. Was these calls released? I mean, I'm assuming they've been released now because we're hearing it. But like, how far ago these were released? I don't know.
Nah. And then the dogs are actually out in the front, so, and they're yeah, and they're pretty. According to my deputy, they're pretty aggressive as well. So.
Okay.
But they're not friendly-ish, but.
Okay.
So yeah, you don't happen to know anybody that would know that gate code offhand, would it?
You know what? I'm going to try and make some phone calls. Maybe maybe he did leave it for somebody, and I will get back to you.
Okay, and probably what I'll do is just have I'll have my guys go ahead and leave from where they are. And as soon as you find that information out, then just give us a call back. We'll send somebody back down there.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
Listen to the Benoit call logs.
Okay, were you able to get a gate code or anything like that?
No, but what happened was they just called back. They said that there's only one neighbor to the left right there who's very friendly with them.
Okay.
They don't know if they might have the gate code, but now they're saying that there was 2 text messages, and they were both at like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning.
So they were sent at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, and he killed David. What time was David's body found? Because they talk right here about Nancy's body being found, and David was at 3:30 p.m. EDT. So if he received a voicemail, that means that he was still alive at 3:30. June 24th on Sunday. Okay, so Sunday he was still alive. Okay.
One from his phone and one from his wife Nancy's phone.
Okay.
And they went to the same wrestler who doesn't even live anywhere near them.
Right.
And basically said, this is the house number. The dogs are in the backyard. The patio door's unlocked. And that was it. So that's what they're worried about. And it's unlike, like I said, it's out of character for Chris to do anything like this.
Right.
He's missed 2 shows, one on Saturday and pay-per-view on Sunday. And so they're saying the only thing they know is that one of the wrestlers called back and said he's always talking about his neighbor next door to the left, who is, I guess, good friends with him.
Right.
But I told them about the dogs, and they were saying, they don't know. The gentleman I'm dealing with at World Wrestling is a retired judge from up here in New York.
Okay.
Nobody really, has a gate code, they're saying, but the thing is, I don't know what you guys would do is if you thought something was wrong in the house, you'd have to like taser the dogs to put them to sleep.
Basically, we just need somebody to contain them. I think that would be the main thing.
Right.
Now, that neighbor that's friendly with him, do you think they would be able possibly to contain those dogs?
That's what the other this shot.
Again, Benoit texted people saying, "Hey, my gate's open, the dogs are locked up, and not the gate's closed and the dogs are out." So
Chavro is the name of the other wrestler. That's what he's saying. He's saying that Chris is always saying how friendly he is with his next door neighbor, but it's to the house to the left.
House to the left.
Yes, and
we don't know
like
the
I said,
name,
they all seem to be very worried because they get these messages at 3:30 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And they said when they spoke to him the other day, he seemed depressed, and he said something about food poisoning. And they, like I said, they get the same messages. Nobody's answering the cell phones. Nobody's answering the house phones.
Right. That's definitely suspicious. Okay. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll have a deputy swing down and see.
So his brain was so damaged, so badly, it was reminiscent of people who cannot even recognize their own family. Yeah, his brain was that badly fucked up. But I'll talk about that in a bit.
They can make contact with the neighbors.
Okay.
And see where we can go from there.
Okay, thank you. You'll let me know. Thank you, sir.
Yes, no problem. Bye.
At which point, the bodies of Daniel, Nancy, and Chris were found. There's a number of conspiracy theories about what had occurred.
Here we go.
With some people posting that the WWE had Chris and the family killed because of an edit made to his Wikipedia page, while others think it was a drug-related crime, but we won't be getting into the weeds of those theories. As Nancy's family had stated, they are disrespectful to her memory. Though many speculate why Chris felt the need to take the lives of his entire family that night, we will never truly know. There was no direct note that was left at the scene. However, Chris's father would state that his ex-wife, Martina, found what appeared to be a suicide note in a Bible that they had sent to her after his passing, which stated that he was preparing to leave the earth. The rest of its contents have not been shared publicly. That he was preparing to leave out in a Bible that they had sent.
So he did write a suicide note to his
ex-wife. Direct note that was left at the scene. However, Chris's father would state that his ex-wife, Martina, found what appeared to be a suicide note in a Bible that they had sent to her after his passing.
So they sent Chris's ex-wife, not Nancy, but his ex-wife Martina, a Bible. Again, here's the Bible, because he left the Bible towards his wife Nancy, a Bible towards his son, maybe towards himself, and now to his ex-wife, because he's super religious. And inside the Bible was a suicide note. Now, all of my Christians and Catholics and religious people know that one of the ways to not get into heaven is to kill you. Like, people know, if you're religious, that by the word of God, you don't get into heaven if you unalive yourself. You don't. Like, suicide, if you kill yourself, you're not going to heaven. You don't. So, how the suicide note was put in the Bible is very interesting detail. I think it's very interesting. And the fact that he sent it to his ex-wife is also very interesting.
Which stated that he was preparing to leave the earth. The rest of its contents have not been shared publicly. Chris spent years damaging his body for sport, taking blows to the head purposely, and taking drugs to give himself the body that was deemed desirable for his chosen profession. Both over use of steroids, painkillers, and repeated concussions have been linked with paranoia, suicidal ideation, and aggression. And it's not ridiculous to link those things with these murders. Nancy and Daniel had so much life left to live. They loved Chris. They loved their lives together, and we will never truly know what happened that night. Chris's legacy as one of the top fighters has forever been tarnished, and we will never truly know why, but knowing the answer would never make it make sense. If you like this video, feel free to hit the like button and subscribe.
Yeah, that's the end of the video, guys. Make sure you guys do me a favor and go to this video, The Case of Chris Benoit, search it up on YouTube, hit the like button, comment, give your thoughts, and give this guy a subscribe, because that was a fucking awesome video. I think he did really great research on it and all that. So, after gathering all that information from the video we just watched here, has anybody want to further elaborate their thoughts on Chris Benoit before I give my thoughts? Has your opinion changed on Benoit? Have you learned something from this video? Have you gained a new perspective? What did you guys learn? What did you guys gain from watching this video? Let's get into that discussion. It was a great piece. It was a great piece. He came at us with call logs. He was he was unbiased the whole time, which I respect the fact this man was unbiased the whole time. That video didn't change, but Dark Side did. Y'all keep saying I gotta watch Dark Side of the Ring, so maybe I will have to watch Dark Side of the Ring. Unfortunately, he deleted his video. Also the note to his ex-wife was because of David lived with her in Canada. If Snuka can be in the Hall of Fame, then so can Benoit now. Snuka shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame anyway. Wasn't Snuka convicted like years after the fact? He shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. I don't believe he should be, because he murdered his wife. I don't know why he's in the Hall of Fame. But the whole conviction of Snuka, I think that happened years after the fact. Hold on. Jimmy Snuka case. Yeah, Snuka murdered his girlfriend in 1983. The case itself didn't... he murdered his girlfriend in 1983, but the case wasn't resolved until 30 years later in, 2017. So... that's a lot of the reason why he was still in the Hall of Fame, is because the case wasn't resolved until that. Now, should they have taken him out? I think they should have, especially if he's a convicted murderer. Yeah, he should have been taken out of the Hall of Fame. Did he get his Hall of Fame revoked? Hold on. Is Jimmy Snuka still in the WWE Hall of Fame? Is he still in the Hall of Fame? No, he got removed. He was inducted into the WWF Hall of Fame in 1986, but was quietly removed from the Hall of Fame section in 2015 after he was arrested. Yeah, like, he got removed. So that argument, that whoever made that argument, that doesn't stand. He got removed. They took him out. Who made the argument for Snuka? They took him out of the Hall of Fame, so your argument doesn't stand. Your argument doesn't stand because they took him out. So if Snuka went in, here's the thing. Snuka went in before he was convicted. If no one convicts you, then by legality, you are still innocent. You might not be innocent in the opinions of others, but you're innocent by law, which means that you still can be in the Hall of Fame. Should you? No, but you're still allowed to be in the Hall of Fame because you're not legally convicted. The second he was legally convicted, that's when they took him out. So yeah, your stance does not hold any merit at that point, because if Snuka got taken out, then Benoit doesn't deserve to be in it. Because if Snuka's not in it, Benoit should be in it. Snuka was not good. What are you talking? I just read the article. What are you talking about, bro? I literally just read the article which said he got arrested. Are you not reading the same thing I'm reading, or are you just? Do you have your eyes closed or something? Like, you can have your opinions about Benoit, but don't plug your ears when it comes to facts, bro, because that's the easiest way to, like, the easiest way to look incompetent is if you plug your ears at facts. You know what? You're right. He wasn't fit to stand trial because he was right in the head. Yeah, okay. I'll give you that. I remember that piece. He wasn't fit to stand trial, but he was arrested. He was arrested. And he wasn't fit to stand trial, so he couldn't be convicted due to his mental state. So, yeah, I'll give you that. I did, once you put it out there, I remembered it. Man of my word, I apologize. You were right in that aspect. But at the end of the day, he was arrested. So he had every right to be taken out of the Hall of Fame. And yeah, you could say, oh, well, he didn't get convicted. If he didn't get convicted due to his mental state, then you can't really say that he's innocent because he wasn't tried for his crimes. That's like if I shot you in the head and then I pled that I pled insanity, and then they locked me in an insane asylum and I never stood trial because I pled insanity. It's like, okay, there's proof that I shot you in the head, but if I pled insanity, I can't stand trial. Does that mean that I didn't do it? No. But like I said, if Snuka's not in it, then Benoit shouldn't be in it. And Snuka got taken out, so that point does not stand. But here is where I stand, and then we're going to end the video. I know you guys are asking for part 2. We'll do part 2, don't worry. When? Probably sometime this week. I'll have to schedule it out because you guys really love this. We'll be doing more of these. Again, before we leave out, I want to make sure you guys have it. Because I plan on doing more of these where we have these discussions about not just Benoit, but just about like all things, all types of wrestling discussions. If you guys see any video essays or you see any TikToks you guys want me to discuss here, I have an email. It is suplexfm@gmail.com. You guys can submit video requests and stuff you want me to watch at that email, or you could tag me on Twitter. Best way to reach me is that email or tag me on Twitter. If you guys want to send me links of things I want to watch on stream or react to or watch, that kind of stuff. You should have people panel up. Yeah, but that's the place to go. So here are my thoughts before we end things out on Chris Benoit. I'll have to do a part 2 and watch the Dark Side of the Ring thing because maybe there's stuff I don't know that might have been left out. But here are my final thoughts on Chris Benoit before we end things. Let me turn this music off real quick. Hold on. It's tragic what happened to Nancy and what happened to Daniel. And I would even say it's tragic that Benoit took his own life. All of that is just one big tragedy. And knowing what I know about CTE from this video, it gave me more information and more insights into the head of Chris Benoit and knowing exactly how his brain functioned with dementia, it being older, the effects that everything he did in the ring had on his brain, and the steroid usage and grieving and all this stuff bottled up inside. And that's what led to this. We don't know for sure what was the breaking point, but we can all just put the pieces together that all this stuff, all these components added up to this moment and led up to this. And I won't get into theories. I still firmly believe that Benoit did it. There's a lot more proof surrounding Benoit doing it than there is Benoit not doing it. So I'm going to go with Benoit did the whole thing. That's where I'm going from. And as I said earlier, Snuka was in the Hall of Fame and he got taken out. So if you want to have rebuttal for Snuka, you can't. If one murder got taken out, another one can't go in. That's just the end of it. If one got taken out, you can't put another one in. Because if you put Benoit in, you got to put Snuka back in. And even then, he murdered his wife and son. There's no way you can have a ceremony. You're talking about having a Hall of Fame ceremony for a murderer, bro. A murderer. You can't have a ceremony and glorify a because what you're asking people to pretend that he didn't do anything wrong. You are pretending that he didn't do anything by having this ceremony. You can't ignore it. You can't have a ceremony and ignore the tragedy. It's impossible. You can't. You can't ignore it. And if you can't ignore it, then you can't have it. You can't have it. You can't ignore it. So it can't happen. It can't ever happen. You have to if you have to glorify him and you have to act like he never killed his wife and son, then it shouldn't happen. Simple as that. On to the topic of, do I think it was like his mental state and should he be held accountable? Because a lot of people seem to blame CTE and all this kind of stuff. I'll say this much. I gotta take my headphones off because I'm dead serious here. Here's what I'm gonna say as my closing statement. It is absolutely terrible that Chris Benoit had all that brain damage done to him over his career and the steroid usage that led up to it, and that he is super passionate. Like they described earlier in the video that he was a very interesting kid and that he is super passionate about wrestling, and that he was that into it that he was willing to put his body on the line in order to achieve greatness. But at the end of the day, Chris Benoit made all those choices. Every single thing that happened to him in the ring, the headbutts, the steel chairs, him taking those bumps, he agreed to take those bumps. He chose to get his head bashed, and he chose to bash his head up against other people's heads. He chose to take these bumps. Yeah, but the botches weren't his fault. Yeah, maybe he didn't. Maybe a lot of things that happened were not his, but he chose for all this shit to happen. He chose to take steroids, knowing the effects, knowing that he was abusing his wife and his son and the effect that they had on him. His wife said, no, I don't like this. I don't like the fact that you're not supporting your son. I don't like the fact this isn't happening, and I'm going to divorce you. And he still did it. He dialed back, but he still did it. Knowing the effects, he still did it. Knowing the effects that his brain was having when he was taking those bumps, he still did it. That was a conscious decision that he made. You can't blame dementia on that. You can blame dementia on his later half, but in the earlier half that led up to what happened, you can't blame that shit on anyone else but fucking Chris Benoit. That's all his fault. No one forced him to do it. No one had a gun to Benoit's head and told him, you have to go out there and do these diving headbutts. No one had a gun to his head and said, you have to take this needle. No one forced him to do any of that. That was all his doing. So at the end of the day, every single thing that led up to this moment is his fault. It's all his fault. The dementia, the break, that's all him. He chose to do all of that. No one forced him to do it. So yes, I don't have much pity for Chris Benoit. I actually have no pity for Chris Benoit. Because at any point, he could have chose to stop. He could have sought out help. Therapy was available in 2005. Therapy was available in the 2000s. Therapy was available in 1995. Therapy was available then. Was it as widely accepted here? No. But it was available. He could have sought out help, but he didn't. He chose not to. He was a dick and an asshole to his wife and son up until the moment where he killed them. So no, I don't have any remorse. I don't have any pity for Benoit. At all. He shouldn't go into the Hall of Fame. And he's burning in hell where he should be. That's my final statement on it. Let me read out to you guys before I end this out, because that's where I stand on it. You cannot separate the person from the rest in the situation. You can't. Nancy can going as woman. There's a lot of clips of Benoit. Lucas after what he did. Doesn't matter. He could have protected himself. He didn't. He chose not to. The only people who ever had the right to put Benoit on any Hall of Fame are the families who lost their lives. They get those choices. No one else. Well, if it's the family's choice and they want to put him in a Hall of Fame, that's their choice. I would still say no. If I were on the board and the family wanted to put him in the Hall of Fame, I'm still going to say no. Even if you feel like he was the greatest man in the world, I don't care how you feel about him because you're related to him. He's not going in. Morally, he can't go in. And as if it's my company, I'm not about to have TMZ news articles talking about how I'm putting a murderer and glorifying a murder. That's gonna be the downfall of WWE if that ever happened. That is a PR nightmare for them. That would never happen. WWE would never ever jeopardize their company in doing that. You think what Vince did was bad? This would be far. I'm not saying what. Okay, let me rephrase that. If you think the Vince McMahon whole thing was a bad look for the company, Chris Benoit going to Hall of Fame would be 100 times worse of a look for the company. 100 times worse. 100 times worse. Which is why it would never happen. Any Hall of Fame that Benoit will go into would be an figment of the imagination of whoever puts him in there. Not a legal one, not a WWE one, not an AEW one, not a professional wrestling one. Unless they're delusional enough to think he belongs in it. WWE Network started in the 2000s. That would kill WWE. It would. It would. What are your thoughts of Eddie introducing Chris to religion? I mean, you're allowed to introduce somebody to religion. I don't think there's anything wrong. We're not going to blame Eddie for that. It's not Eddie's fault. Benoit was messed up before he got religious. Benoit could. Well, let me not say that because we don't know that for sure. But even if Eddie introduced Benoit to religion, one really doesn't have much to do with the other, because I don't think God would have forgiven Benoit for what he did. It doesn't matter how many Bibles you place next to the dead bodies of the people you murdered. God wouldn't forgive you. God wouldn't forgive you. Sorry. He just won't. But that's where I'm going to end things out here. Any final thoughts, guys, before we end this stream? Before we end the stream, if you have not already, make sure you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel Suplex. Follow me on TikTok at Suplex and follow me on Twitch. We're doing more streams like this in the future, guys. These are streams going forward. If you have any ideas, what you want me to watch, I'm on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. Let me know. Email me, suplexfm@gmail.com. That's the place to go. But we will be tapping into a part 2 to watch the Dark Side of the Ring version, since a lot of you guys want me to watch that. I have not watched it myself, but I guess I'll be watching that very soon. What day exactly? I'm not too sure. I know Monday, tomorrow, we should be live, probably during Raw. And I know Wednesday will be live probably during Dynamite. And then I do plan to be live this coming weekend, for Clash at the Castle and All Out. So it'll probably be sometime this weekend. Maybe Friday. Maybe Friday. We'll aim for Friday for now. But that being said, guys, it was a very interesting chat we had here with Benoit. What are your guys' thoughts on Chris Benoit? Be sure to comment down below. Let everybody know. And try to keep it simple in the comment section. I do have more thoughts, but they're more complex than a live stream comment. Listen, the live stream is going to end. You are more than welcome to comment on the actual VOD of this video. More than welcome to. Have the safe discussions, because that's what we're trying to have here, a healthy discussion. But that being said, I love you guys as always. Thank you all for coming through. Thank you all for tuning in. Make sure you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow me on Twitter, Suplex. Follow me on TikTok. Follow me on Twitch.tv. Let's keep the conversation. Not the conversation, Chris Benoit. It's always going to keep going. You'll never escape the Chris Benoit conversation. It will live on for infamy, forever and ever. You're never going to escape it. But let's have more conversations like this in the future. Love you all. Have a good night. I'm outie. Love you. See you. Be safe. Bye.